This episode is brought to you by Nordstrom. Summer's almost out and fall's calling. Luckily, Nordstrom has everything you need for the season ahead, all under $100. Discover new arrivals from your favorite brands like Mango, Princess Polly, Wave, Free People, BDG, and more. Whether you're planning a last-minute getaway, heading back to class, or refreshing your office looks, you'll find the latest trends and beauty must-haves without breaking your budget. It's easy, too, with free shipping, free returns, and in-store order pickup. Shop today, in stores, and at Nordstrom.com.
This episode is brought to you by Espolón Tequila. Slow, sticky, snoozy. They call these the dog days of summer. But Espolón? They don't do boring. Welcome to the Marg Days. Espolón Tequila. 100% blue Weber agave, born to shake up your summer. Just add lime, agave, and a little attitude. Visit espolontequila.com. Espolón Tequila, 40% alcohol, volume 80 proof. Copyright 2025 Campari America, New York, New York. Drink responsibly.
Welcome to the Sportsman's Voice Roundup, your weekly look at conservation and sporting community news happening across the nation and on the Hill. Thanks for tuning in. This is the TSV Roundup. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this weekly edition of the Sportsman's Voice Roundup for the week of August 11th, 2025. This week's brought to you by Bass Pro Shops, Richard Childress Racing, and Shields. Thank you all for your support of this show. This week's headlines, starting off, critical vote for Florida Black Bear season this week. Matter of fact, that's happening today as this program drops. Bills promoting sporting access and opportunity await legislators in Wisconsin. Public input as Wyoming travel, recreation, and cultural resources weigh in on key bills. What's new for sportsmen and women across the Northeast for this hunting season? And we wrap it up with an update on the Shark Act. All that and much, much more. Before we get to our guest, reminder, we are about 2 weeks out from our early bird registration for the NAS Summit in Memphis expiring. So for those of you that are listening that plan on attending, if you have not registered, please do so now. You can go to congressionalsportsman.org, find the summit page there, and a very easy fill in the blanks registration. Appreciate that discount, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Memphis. Until then, let us welcome in now our assistant manager in the Southeast region, Mr. Mark Lance. Mark, we got some potentially good news going on in Florida. Talk to us about bears.
Yeah, thanks, Fred. Appreciate you having me back on to talk about black bears again. It seems to be a revolving topic here in the Southeast between Louisiana and Florida, but happy to join you again to talk about that. But yeah, to your point, the FWC, the commission, will be making their final vote on whether to reestablish a black bear hunting season or not in Florida tomorrow. And this is something that, CSS has been at the table for many years now, working with the FWC as well as our partners in state and nationally to see come back. So it's very exciting to see what comes of that commission meeting tomorrow.
You make a good point here, a bunch of good points really in your article highlighting what's going on. And I think one of the biggest things to point out is that, much like in Louisiana, these recovery numbers and this species-specific project were made possible by sportsman dollars in the Sunshine State. And to continue to have a moratorium on science-based wildlife management kind of flies in the face of that funding model, wildlife management as we know it by the North American model. What have the considerations been and how have those conversations gone at the commission level?
Yeah, so just looking at the issue in general, black bears are already classified as a game species in Florida, right? There's already a season structure in place. It just hasn't been established since the last black bear season in 2015, and that was for a myriad of different reasons. And we can get into those if you'd like at some point during this interview. But when you look at the recovery efforts that have happened for black bears in Florida, and you look at the increases in population since, the abundance surveys from, going back to 2005 through 2015 before the last black bear season, and even now, you've seen a very substantial increase in bear populations almost across the state. Now, there are some bear management units where, it's kind of plateaued a little bit, and that's for a bunch of different reasons, vehicle collisions and and things of that nature. But overall, black bear populations in Florida are extremely healthy, and that's in large part to, funding by hunters and anglers through the American System of Conservation Funding, that have gone back into uh, habitat management and gone back into this, the conservation of that species to the point now that, we can talk about having another season on black bears.
Going back to May, at the commission meeting there, you mentioned there was 165 people that signed up to speak about this issue. 3 hours of public testimony that was available to those commissioners, a lot of it emotionally driven. You have a sense of what that split might have been, opposed favorability on it?
Yeah, so to your point, the commission meeting back in May, black bears, that was the number one topic. That's what most people were in the room to talk about. When you've got, you know, typically at a commission meeting, you've got 2 to 3 minutes to speak per topic. But when you have 170 people there to talk about one topic, that eats up your whole day. So they had to limit it to 1 minute per person. And I do want to give kudos to how the commission as well as the staff operated that. It went as smoothly as it possibly could, and they kept good order in the room because, people feel very strongly about this topic on both sides. And when you look at, what the split might have looked like, I would say it was close to 50-50. There may have been, you know, a few more that were there that spoke out against it, than there were those that were in favor of it. But when you look at the arguments that were being made, 90% of those that were opposing it, if not 100% of those that were opposing it, were just utilizing emotionally driven sentiments to oppose it, right? Because the science is on our side. Like I said, you look at the abundance surveys, you look at the expansion in range, of these black bear subpopulations since, the early 2000s. There's nothing in the data that FWC has provided that gives you a leg to stand on in opposing this based off of science.
Mhm. Now, if I remember correctly, going back in time and set me straight if I'm off on this, but I think the last time this season was implemented and used for management, it was over and done with in like a day, day and a half, and they hit their numbers. I mean, I think that speaks to just the sheer amount of bears in some of these concentrated areas in order to have a season come and go in under 2 days.
Right, yeah, and you look at that 2015 season, the way that they went about that is they did a quota rather than, this proposal includes hard tags basically. Like there's a set number that, you know, people can take and uh again, you look back at 2015 and to your point, they exceeded that quota in something crazy like it was less than 48 hours. And again, that probably shows that there are more bears on the landscape than you thought were there, for folks to exceed that quota. But yeah, and that's a big argument on the opposing side of this too, is they're saying, well, look at what happened in 2015. We exceeded this quota. Hunters were killing lactating females, they were orphaning cubs, et cetera, et cetera. And you look at the proposal now, you know, looking at a hard tag system or electronic tag and, the different methods that they're looking to allow for this proposed season that includes, you set the season structure. The proposal is October 1 to December 31st, right?
Wow.
At FWC, the staff recommendation is you look at a season in December, which is what Louisiana did. And the reason for that is most of the females that are nursing cubs are going to be denned up, right? They're not going to be moving around in the landscape as much as they would be in early October, or mid October, which is when the 2015 season happened. And you also look at, well, they're going to allow, or they're looking to allow the use of bait as well as dogs. And, opponents are like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. It's unfair to the bear, et cetera, et cetera. Well, those two methods are extremely helpful in identifying the bears that you want to actually take. So rather than having a hunter sit in a deer stand or wherever and a bear walks out and the bear's moving and they got to make a split second decision on whether they want to or they don't want to shoot that bear, knowing that if I don't take this bear, I might not have an opportunity to fill that tag or, you know, the quota might exceed if you're looking back to 2015. Um, so again, I do want to give kudos to FWC and the commission and how they looked at, what went right, what went wrong in 2015. They're looking at the population abundances, and they're implementing strategies and methods of take, et cetera, to make sure that this season is successful if the commission does plan to move forward with it.
The allowance of bait and hounds is a big point to drive home on this. And I know proponents would for everything you said, they think it's not fair. They think it's cheating. So a couple points on that. The first one being the selectivity of it and being judicious in the decision making. It is to the advantage of the bears, and as sportsmen and women and conservationists first, like that, we want that. We want the species to perpetuate. Um, Bear hunters are not interested in shooting little 80-pound yearlings. That's not interesting at all. Certainly, we don't want those fertile sows that are on the landscape being taken out. Much like with hen turkeys, right? Like they perpetuate the species, right? So we want them, and we want healthy populations of these bears. So that doesn't make any sense from a management standpoint. I mean, it happens, but that comes with education. Same thing we talked about in Louisiana, just establishing this hunt and establishing some good habits and some continuity through the seasons. If you do this every 10 years, you can't really expect a whole lot of your hunters unless you're coming from states like where I live in the Northeast where we're used to doing this, right? Another argument you get on this bait thing, more so than the hound harassment argument, is there's this idea that some people think that, bait will habituate bears to human food. And I will tell you right damn now, from my experience in the bear woods, if there is natural forage in abundance or any natural forage available to them, they will turn their nose up at a bucket of granola or donuts 9 times or 10 times out of 10 in favor of whatever that forage is. Up here, it's, hard mass between beech nuts, hazelnuts, acorns, all day, all night. They will forage on that soft mass, things like that, where it's available. You'll never see them at a bait site. It is incredibly hard. So it's not a guarantee that you put your barrel out there and you're gonna have them come in like you guys do with hogs, right? It's not guaranteed. Um, so that's a fallacy, and that definitely needs to be put out there, and people need to understand that. And it comes back to the selectivity. So when they do actually come in, you're making a very good decision as a sportsman sitting in that stand or however your situation is, and you're pulling the trigger on the right bear and being able to have a 30 seconds to even longer, 5 minutes bear sitting there. You get the opportunity to watch them and observe them and really evaluate that bear. So these are great things, and it's like you said, tip of the cap to the agency there in Florida for making these good decisions and working with the commission to get to the point where we're at now and being able to take a vote on it. What's the anticipated? Are we reading tea leaves? Do we kind of have an idea of what's happening on there? We got a temperature.
Yeah, so when this was originally formally proposed during the May meeting, the vote came out 4-1, which was extremely strong. As far as how the vote will fall in August, I don't want to put the cart before the horse.
Sure.
I feel strongly that the commission has listened to the science that their staff has presented, and they're not going to make a decision based on the court of public opinion, which is incredibly important. You get into that ballot box biology discussion again,
Hmm.
and I feel good that the commission will make the right choice. I hope I don't eat those words, but I do have faith in that they've listened to the science that's been presented before them.
It stands to reason regionally that where there are advances and states, like Florida, like Louisiana is a great recent case study, are making good decisions based on the science and not Facebook biology. Um, the right steps are being made, the access and opportunities being increased, and ultimately, you're getting mission delivery by the state agencies and healthy habitats and healthy populations, and that's really at the end of the day what this is all about. So, um, excited to see what happens here, and we'll look forward to follow-up reporting, obviously, for your leadership and working with the state caucus and working with, your partners in the commission. Tip of the cap to you, Mark, for leadership and getting this to a place where, with the in-state partners where we're at, literally today, again, as this program drops. So, um, look forward to the follow-up. Hopefully, we got some good news.
Thank you. Yep. I hope all goes well.
All right, very good. We'll leave it there. Thanks, Mark.
Yep. Thank you, Fred.
All right, folks, we got some breaking news out of Florida. As I knew we would have a quick follow-up to Mark and I's discussion. Earlier today, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission voted unanimously to reestablish a highly regulated black bear hunting season in Florida, the first of its kind in a decade. This has been an effort that CSF and our partners have spearheaded for years, and we applaud the commission for their science-based decision upholding the North American model of wildlife conservation. This is great news. Huge, huge news. I mean, obviously, to all involved and to the commission for recognizing that science based wildlife management plan and not caving to the emotional arguments. This is pretty remarkable when you think about it, ladies and gentlemen. With the highly scrutinized part of wildlife management, on especially on predators, when we look at what we went through with Colorado, attempts in the West to ban mountain lion hunting, bobcat hunting. Here in the Northeast, attempts to end fur bear hunting and trapping. Always attempts to modify or end bear seasons in some of these northern tier states, or bring ballot initiatives in states where they have them to end bear hunting. And then you have a state like Florida that just introduced a season and looking to make further changes down the line when they continue to go forward. So great day, great news, more great news to bring to you guys. I love it. So congratulations to Florida. I think, what was it? Mark covered 4,000 bears estimated, and then they're going to have a conservative just under 200 tags available to those residents. So, like Louisiana, cannot wait to see what happens later on this year, and how the hunting goes, and how that experience pans out, and what that's going to do for bear management and the future of that, and bringing that to more people in the Sunshine State. That's a breaking news update. Now back to the rest of the stories. Heading to Wisconsin here. This from Bob Matthews, discussing the reauthorization of the Knowles-Nelson Stewardship Fund that would continue to provide hunters and anglers with access to the state's fish and wildlife resources while creating a new hunting season for sandhill cranes, and that would help farmers and dinner tables alike. With fall approaching, legislators in Wisconsin will be returning to Madison next month to round out the 2025 legislative year with two pairs of important sporting bills that await them. One pair of bills would reauthorize an important fund. We've reported on this from Bob in the past, a fund that has acquired land for hunting and fishing for 4 decades. The other bills would authorize a hunting season for sandhill cranes. CSF will actively work with legislators to advance the passage of these critical bills that expand opportunity for sportsmen and women. The reauthorization of Knowles-Nelson Stewardship Fund, this is AB 315 and SB 316. Just to refresh on the Knowles-Nelson Stewardship Fund, it's created hunting and fishing and trapping opportunities through land acquisition for Wisconsinites since 1989. Its coffers, however, have been progressively eroded with each legislative reauthorization. Safeguarding the fund, which is widely supported by the public, is a no net loss mechanism that is essential for protecting public land pursuits. Although this year's reauthorization shifts the fund's primary focus from acquisition to conserving habitat and bolstering infrastructures on lands that the state has already acquired through the program, it retains acquisition capabilities. Getting into the sandhill crane season, this would be Assembly Bill 117 and Senate Bill 112. Following the passage of the 2024 of the CSF supported Wisconsin Legislative Council study on population management options for sandhill cranes, legislation was introduced in both chambers during the 25 session that would allow for a season. Sandhill cranes are responsible for a significant amount of crop depredation in the state, and given that hunting is the preferred wildlife management tool, the prospective season would alleviate, excuse me, Uh, agricultural conflict, generate revenue for Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources through license sales, and put a delicious game bird dubbed the ribeye of the sky on plates of Wisconsin sportsmen and women. With a return to Madison on the horizon, CSF will continue to express support to Wisconsin legislators about the importance of creating and maintaining opportunities for folks in the Badger State to participate in our time honored traditions. That's pretty cool with the additional season there. Certainly serves a couple purposes, as we often do. Um, our community, our folks that go afield and try to fill their tags. So hopefully, hopefully here in the coming weeks they'll see that come to fruition. And to Wyoming, where public input opens as the Wyoming Travel, Recreation, and Cultural Resources weigh in on key bills. The Wyoming Joint Travel, Recreation, Wildlife, and Cultural Resources Committee's upcoming meeting will shape legislation for the 2026 short session impacting outdoor recreation, wildlife conservation, and some hunting license updates. Public input on proposed bill drafts is critical to ensure these policies reflect Wyoming's values and priorities. Several bill drafts were published for the 26th legislative session and will be discussed by the committee on August 19th. I'm going to say the committee from here on out because it is just a mouthful. We know what we're talking about here. Public comments during the intern meeting will help influence final legislative drafts for the fast moving 26th session. CSF is tracking all interim legislative proposals and will be working closely with Wyoming Legislative Sportsman's Caucus and coalition partners to ensure sportsmen's voice is reflected in the final bill drafts. The committee will convene, as I said, August 19th to continue those discussions on those priorities for the short session. Due to the session's condensed timeline, the committee is seeking public input on several bills to refine policies impacting Wyoming's outdoor recreation, wildlife, and cultural resources. Several of the proposed bills will have implications for the sporting community in Wyoming, and they include proposing enhanced funding for wildlife conservation, habitat protection, and recreational access through the gaming revenues. This is LSO 0114. LSO 0118 aims to improve access to landlocked public lands while respecting private property rights through the further clarifications around corner crossing. LSO 0116 closely mirrors the Montana Come Home to Hunt licenses, offering reduced non resident license fees to former residents meeting certain criteria. Hmm. Finally, LSO 0117, a hunting license program for former residents returning to Wyoming to hunt. As previously reported, Wyoming's interim meetings, like this one on the 19th, are opportunities to share input before the short session. Rapid pace commences. 2026 legislative session for Wyoming will commence the second Monday in February and run for 20 days. CSF will be monitoring these bills closely and working with members of the Legislative Sportsman's Caucus in Wyoming to ensure sportsmen's voices play a key role in the final drafts of those bills. So everyone's on notice there in Wyoming. You know when it's coming. You know how fast it's going to go. So everyone to work together and get those good bills in good standing order with the committee, and they can do some good work. Follow up reporting to come, no doubt. Oh, what's ahead for sportsmen in the Northeast? So we've reported on many of these, quite a few wins, and then some wins by way of defeat. We'll start with the improved access, if you will, and it's important to start off with this one. Uh, checking your digests, your abstracts, whatever they're called in your state. They always got a new rules for the new year. So be sure to check this stuff out and we're reporting on it. We know what we engaged in and what we got passed and what we defeated. But it's really important to get the meat and potatoes of all this stuff to check with your state agency to get the full rules as they're implemented. Yeah, so we've got a few weeks to go here in the Northeast, and many of us are excited. Some of us are going to get a little early start with some dove seasons. That's great. Um, just kind of get, like I said, getting back to the know before you go and checking up on these new rules. Obviously, the first one, as we've reported on, since knowing it was coming and then it all happened officially, Pennsylvania, Connecticut certainly had the most impactful change in the northeastern states, allowing hunters to join the rest of the country with new Sunday hunting opportunities. As we've acknowledged, while Connecticut rolled back their prohibition on private lands, which is great, opening thousands of acres to sportsmen and women, Pennsylvania took it all the way and eliminated the outdated practice, as we've celebrated here in the last month. So again, get current with that. But if you're traveling to these states, good for you. If you're a resident, you're stoked and you're going to be able to hunt a whole lot more for this season. Again, as reported in New Hampshire, where I currently sit, air rifles, they're going to be available to folks hunting. Again, this is pretty nuanced, so you're going to want to brush up on this stuff and kind of give you the rundown of what I can report. So the air rifles used for the purpose of take will or shall be, that's the language here, charged from an external high compression power source to meet the following minimum criteria: be a .35 caliber or larger to produce at least 400 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle for taking deer and bear. That's right, we're taking we're taking deer, bear, and moose with these things. It's pretty awesome. Be a .45 caliber or larger, producing at least 400 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle for taking moose. For use in taking small game, air rifles should be no less than 22 caliber and shall deliver no less than 12 foot-pounds of kinetic energy at the muzzle. Again, getting into New Hampshire's digest, it'll tell you what the small game is and what you're able to do here. So there's some special considerations with the air guns. That's pretty awesome. Definitely excited. A lot of I would say, affordable variants of air guns, especially for the small game. It's pretty fun. Go out there and do some squirrel hunting with the kids, or even grouse hunting with them, stuff like that. It's just going to be a different deal. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then those chasing the big game in New Hampshire, it's going to offer a pretty cool opportunity there as well. Just make sure you're following the laws and everything is where it needs to be for clean, ethical harvest, and we'll be good to go. Maryland, there was an update. Deer hunters, again, getting up to speed on the new regulations. But this concerns deer recovery, and approved for this hunting season, Maryland hunters will be authorized to use artificial lights to aid in the recovery of their deer. And obviously, a well received change that will allow hunters to immediately exhaust all efforts, even after dark, to recover their deer without having to wait till morning to risk spoilage or losing their harvest to local predator populations. This one was new on me. Up here again where I live, my personal experience is you're allowed to pursue those critters after dark for recovery. Now you can't discharge um, your weapons if you have um, if you had somebody come out and assist with like a dog, they're allowed to dispatch. Actually, I gotta check on that. There might have been an update, but nevertheless, it's always been a thing. You're able to use lights and get a feel of your deer, back out, go back in overnight, and definitely early archery season, like for sure. If you're leaving that critter out overnight, it's gonna be hard pressed to get that meat um, without losing a bunch to spoilage, and then coyotes. For sure, once they get on that smell, I mean, it's not an exaggeration to say you'll walk into a skeleton and maybe just a head left. Um, it's just a part of part of the chase. So for Maryland folks, you got one more tool in the toolbox to help you out and get and recover your deer for the coming season. That's great. New York, once it's signed by the governor, and this is passed again prior reporting, but there's going to be full inclusion on crossbows during the archery season. So I'm sure we'll get an update here very soon on the official passage. Well, it's passed, but just having the governor's office get that into a state of law and going to remove some maximum draw, peak draw weight and remove some of the size requirements with and help people get in line with some of the newer variants of crossbows because some of this language from long ago is outdated based on the new technology and what it's able to put out. A couple points of interest of stuff that we stopped up here that will not prevent loss of access. One, in Maine, there was an attempt to put a blanket prohibition on any management, including management of wildlife, on old growth or late successional forest stands. That was amended to a place that we feel that was acceptable, and will not restrict hunter access at all. So, a good stop there. And then in Vermont, there was an attempt to prohibit the use of firearms, archery, and crossbows while hunting over bait for fur bears. Um, that was defeated. Kind of an odd one, but as some of the motivations are behind these things, they're always seem odd, but it always ends up being the same spirit of trying to stop any hunting, anything, and they always come after the small game and use of bait. So back to the lead story with Mark talking about emotion and emotional argument. So anyway, that was stopped and a good deal there. So obviously, we want to thank our partners in the legislative sportsmen's caucuses in Maine, Maryland, New Hampshire, New York, Pennsylvania, and Vermont for that great. Finally, a quick update on the Shark Act, as we've over the last I don't know, year and a half or more with Chris Horton getting these updates. But on July 30th, the Shark Act, led by Senator Rick Scott of Florida and Congressional Sportsmen's Caucus member Brian Schatz of Hawaii, it was reported favorably out of the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, which is a good update there. So, again, going to the website or subscribing to this, there's some in-article links you can dig a little further, but new listeners coming in, Shark Act it's an opportunity to create a committee to figure out a way to prevent shark depredation, making the quality of the experience better for recreational fishermen. Not getting into a place where you're having these conflicts, losing fish, especially fish you got to put back, and now they're dead. So it's all this, and you want to relieve the interactions there. So getting these folks together, making it official, and coming up with smart ways to use technology to deter the interactions by the predators is a good thing. So again, another one of those. Once we have the final update, I think Horton will let us know, and it'll be a good day. I think he said earlier a couple of shows ago that they're expecting this to get to the finish line. So that is the show for this week. Much shorter one. Getting getting to it's not as busy time of year, but nevertheless, still stuff moving and stuff going on. And we thank you for tuning in and staying updated. I mentioned a second ago. Go to the website congressionalsportsman.org, congressionalsportsman.org. There you can sign up for the EPUB of the Sportsman's Voice. Again, all the in article apps, links rather, bring you to more in-depth study, bill text, prior articles that we reported on, given the history, and allow you to do a deeper dive for yourself and get a full understanding of what the issues are. And then not so prevalent right now, but a good resource going forward. You can another free resource by tracking the capitals, bills that are of interest to you in your states. You can just get constant updates as those move along. When more states are in session, this will be certainly a useful tool for anyone listening. Mentioned off the top, NASC registration. Make sure if you're coming to Memphis, you get those in. Early bird expires September 1. We'll leave it there. There is no feature podcast this week. I invite you to go back. Last week, I had a good one on the Rigs to Reef movie. You can go check that out and go check the movie out. I mean, it's like a half an hour documentary. It's really well done. And it's something worth spending 30 minutes with. Next week we're gonna have our show again with Chris Horton on the Sportfish restoration anniversary, and then that'll be followed by a Q3 federal policy update and many more shows after that. So, as always, appreciate you tuning in, the support, hitting the follow, the subscribe button, filling in 5 stars, all of that. It really helps, as I always mention, of us being thrust into the opportunistic eyes of new listeners and people being able to click through and tune in. So, all right, we'll do this all again next Wednesday with a new TSV Roundup, the feature, and then we'll just keep going, hard charging to the end of the year. Hunting season's coming. We're getting to a real special time on the calendar, so I hope everyone's getting ready and you're as excited as most of us are. As always, CSF is your Inside Connection Outdoor Legislation. We'll see y'all next week. So long. Thanks for joining us on this edition of the Sportsman's Voice podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, your support is crucial, and you can help us out right now by leaving a review, filling in those 5 stars where available, sharing this episode with friends and family, and engaging with us socially. CSF can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Together, we can protect the outdoor sports we love and continue to keep you informed wherever you are. That's it for this week. Until next time, we'll see you later.